Assalamu alaikum, and welcome everybody to Carnegie Mellon University in Qatar. So I'm Michael Trick. I'm the dean here at CMU-Q, and it is my distinct honor to welcome you here for today's Dean's Lecture Series. We've been holding the Dean's Lecture Series for more than a decade as a forum for industry leaders, government officials, and global innovators to share their expertise on issues that affect us all. Dean's Lecture Series has hosted some of the most influential thinkers in Qatar, and our speaker today is no exception. This afternoon, we will hear from Sheikh Hamad, Abdulla, Jassim, Al-Thani, a visionary leader who has helped shape the telecom sector in Qatar over the last decade. Sheikh Hamad's perspective is especially relevant for our students at CMU-Q. He has a computer science degree from the University of Ottawa in Canada and a background of operations and logistics in the oil and gas industry. He made a career shift to Vodafone in 2013, where he has used his combined expertise in technology and logistics to help develop the digital landscape in Qatar. 2018, Sheikh Hamad was appointed Chief Executive Officer at Vodafone, and that year, Vodafone launched the Digital 23 strategy to transform itself into a global digital player. And we were just talking about how different Vodafone is now from when it was merely 6 years ago. Under Sheikh Hamad's leadership, Vodafone has seen steady growth through the digital transformation. He oversees the creation, implementation, and integration of Vodafone's long-term strategy with an emphasis on diversification, cybersecurity, and sustainability. I'd like to mention that Vodafone has been a strategic partner for CMU-Q for more than 10 years. They have hired our students and graduates, sponsored and mentored student events, and provided judges for our annual Meeting of the Minds research competition. The Vodafone partnership has enriched the student experience at CMU-Q, and I would like to thank Sheikh Hamad for Vodafone's continued dedication to education here in Qatar. Please join me in welcoming Sheikh Hamad to CMU-Q Dean's Lecture Series.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. The role of telecommunication in the human development. When I received the invitation to speak about the topic, it didn't sound interesting. I asked if I can change it to something more interesting, such as the new buzzwords in the world, AI, ChatGPT, to make it at least more interesting to the students and to the faculty as well. Then for a couple of weeks, I have been thinking about it. It's actually a very interesting topic to reflect on. There are just many things in our daily lives that we started taking them for granted without the right level of appreciation. Telecom and connectivity is definitely not one of them. So let's imagine a journey. Picture a day without your smartphone. No instant messaging, no quick checks on your weather apps, no scrolling through your social media over the morning coffee. Something would feel different, yeah? I feel it will be a different day for every one of us. In our hyper-connected world, telecommunication has embedded itself into the very fabric of our life, to the extent that its presence is become unnoticed as the air we breathe on a daily basis. Do you remember the last time you ordered through the food app? This was telecommunication in action. Or requesting an Uber ride. Telecommunication was the foundation. Or finding your way through Google Apps. I did the same when I came trying to find my location here. Or even attending a virtual meetings with your colleagues or your students from home, especially during the COVID. These are not just conveniences. These are revolutions that was enabled only because of telecommunication. From accessing urgent emails, streaming videos, or your favorite music, telecommunication was the silent hero under this digital narratives. It's the bridge that connects you with your distant friends. It's the catalyst that powers today businesses and the invisible hands behind the emergency services that saves our lives. As you can see this image, by the way, it was generated by ChatGPT through a telecommunication service. Telecommunication is like the neural system of the digital world today. So when you think of telecommunication companies, they are not just service providers, but they are the architect of a human development in the digital era. To be honest, it took us almost 4 or 5 days to try to shrink 150 slides into 25, and then later I gave up. Yeah, to speak about the evolution of telecommunication industries properly, it would take hours and hours. Even just to go over the summary that you can see on the right side, to go over it properly, it will take by itself a couple of hours. As a result, I'm going to speak high level about the recent technologies that I believe personally that impacted the most. Maybe some of you of the faculty might not agree, but this is my own perception or my own beliefs. Mainly, I would focus on 3 things. First, fiber subsea, fiber to the home, of course, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. And I'm happy to leave this one with everyone if they want to go over it later on the website if this is possible. So mainly, the first subsea cable. It was deployed in the 80s, was the first step toward to bring the internet to the world. Without the subsea cables, we wouldn't have the internet as you see it today. Fiber to the home, basically the broadband network that you have at your homes. We call it fixed sometimes, or خط الثابت بالعربي in the Arabic. But to be honest, it's merely a backbone to another wireless device. Today, you don't have a fixed connections in your mobile or on your iPad. Mainly, it is to backhaul your Wi-Fi network in the building or in your home whenever the 2G, 5G, or 4G doesn't penetrate inside. Then the wireless technologies, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. Before going into details into them, I'll tell you my summary, how I summarize it, how I look at them. 2G was person to person. 3G was person to machine. 4G, machine to machine. 5G, everything to everything. This is, of course, a very summarized type of it. We can argue about it, but this is the way I really look at it. So when you look at 2G, introduced in the 1990s, marks the transition from analog to digital communication, primarily used again, as I mentioned, person-to-person communication, enabling us to send text and make digital voice calls. 3G in the early 2000s was a game changer. It wasn't just about calling anymore, it was about bringing the internet to your handset. This means that you can browse websites, send emails, download the music. This was the beginning of person-to-machine communication, laying the ground or foundation for the Internet of Things later in 4G and later. 5G in early 2010 to 2013, it was all about speed and connectivity. The internet in our phone become faster, the latency become a little bit lower. This was also the first true generation of machine-to-machine communication, and actually paved the way and start becoming brought the right application of IoT to applications to use. 5G, however, it's a totally different era. You can see the speeds goes up to 2 gig per second. To be honest, nobody needs it as of today. However, the lower latency is actually going to permit us to connect everything to everything. And this is going to be basically revolutionizing the entire industries as I'm going to come for later for it. This is another way or metric to see how telecom is impacting the world. As you can see, data usage grew from 2 zettabyte to almost approximately going to be around 147 zettabyte by the end of 2024. By the way, zettabyte, if I remember correctly, it is like stacking college books 33 times from the earth to the sun. This is what 1 zettabyte means. This massive increase of data can be taken as an indication for how the world is relying more and more on data consumption, digital services over a telecom network in this digital era, revolutionizing the countless industries, talking from film, music, education, banking, health, e-commerce, and many more. Another way to look at it. You think whenever you look at Vodafone, Ooredoo, any telecom company, you look at SIM card with data. This is not entirely true, and I'm going to show you how. You have connectivity. We all know about connectivity. This is the basics. But we are also providing some sort of authentication. For example, we do the KYC. We actually sign the people up. As a result, other entities, other organizations trust us with this information. That's why whenever you try to sign up for certain online services, or you actually even try to sign up for a government entity, actually they send you an OTP. And by the way, certain governments is actually validating who owns the line, who owns the name. They validate the name. For example, Mutrash today, everyone uses Mutrash and government entity. Have you thought about how come you can register and it will accept you and identify you as the owner without you actually providing them a KYC? It is because they are relying on telecom operators to do it on their behalf, plus other mechanisms that they do. So we do the KYC. We are being used for authentication, OTP for the banks, 444, also MOI, a good example, Mutrash, Ihtiraz that we have been using. It is actually relying on our authentication matrix. Security. Telecom companies are highly regulated and checked for security compliance. They are the first line of defense when it comes to cybersecurity. They are the first line of defense aiming to supply you with a clean pipe of data. What does it mean? Today, it's so easy to create an attack on anyone. Was it your phone? Was it your landline? Was it your organization or your website? It's so easy to do it today. Even something we call denial of service attacks. It grew like 1,000 times. I don't have the number, but it's massively has grown. We are responsible as telecom companies to actually provide you with the clean data pipe. And we are proactively monitoring those lines to ensure that whatever comes to you is as clean as possible, from denial of service attacks, allowing you to utilize the full bandwidth that you subscribe to, and actually other attacks that the time might not prevent us to speak about. But just an example, we already have security services that continuously monitoring the connectivity service across the country to ensure that you are as far away as possible from cybersecurity attacks. Ubiquity, all segments, rich or poor, we are responsible to provide them with an equal or with a suitable option for them to connect to the network. Today, imagine, I'm going to give you a Kenya example. It was a very poor country, and I'm going to show you how the technology has actually improved their economy significantly over the years. However, if you think about it, we can provide people with high quality services, expensive, but we also at the same time will be able to give the poor people also a decent, suitable connectivity options for themselves. And if you think about it, even if you see someone in the internationally, they are actually bigger, they are asking you for food or for money. You will always find them with a landline, with a mobile connection, because they can do nothing without having a connectivity. Data is clear, access to technology. What do I mean by here? Let's take the small businesses as what we have today, like SMBs. Today, to invest heavily into certain technologies will be expensive for SMBs in Qatar or in other countries. So we are investing heavily to build those capabilities for them and to provide them with the service, provide them with platform as a service. So basically, we are lowering the barrier of entry for such a service. So those are 6 of them. If you take one of them, will Uber work? Just to let you think about it. Will online banking work without authentication? I'm not going even to talk about connectivity. Without the authentication, the OTP, it will not work. Will your e-commerce work? It will not work. I'll leave it for you to judge. But if we take any one of those basics or bricks of the telecommunication companies that we provide, if we take it out, will you be able to provide any of the other services? What I think you will not be able, but I leave it for you to judge. Another thing that I'm not going to spend much time on, AI, the buzzword. It has been there for almost in the 50s. The concept was there in the 50s. However, it was never been able to compete with a human except for the last 6 or 7 years. Why is that? Because to be able to harness the power of the AI, you need massive computational power. You need massive storage capacities. However, with those capabilities back then, with those capabilities to spend, every organization to spend it by themselves, it might be very hard for organizations to spend that much on building computational power or decent storage to be able to harness the power of them. However, with the improvement of speed and latency that start happening in the 4G and later in the 5G, hyperscalers such as Microsoft Azure, AWS, or Google are able now to bring the computational power and data storage to everyone in the world using the speed and latency that telecommunication company have to provide. Today, you can use a significant computational power that is actually in the Europe, but because of the low latency that we have today, you will be able just to subscribe to certain systems with the right storage, and you will be able to have your AI applications delivered from there with minimal cost or pay as you use. This is just a summary of what I have just discussed. Okay. In the early 2000s, there were many interesting devices that is like the iPhone concepts. They had cameras, they had videos, modems even. I used to have one called Sony Select, something like this. It was an amazing device, beautiful even till today, with the 2G modem, productivity tools, touch screen. I think I even bought it in the 1999. However, they all failed because 2G wasn't able to give them the right connectivity and the right latency. However, when 3G came into the place and the iPhone then became a game changer, of course, thanks to Mr. Steve Jobs. However, now, and for the first time, the telecommunication is ahead of the technology applications that we can harness as of today. Give you an example. You can have today latency that is lower than 10 milliseconds in the 5G network. In Qatar, the speed can go up to 2 gig per second, 2 gigabit per second. However, we yet don't see the right level of applications. And to be honest, the applications is mouth-watering, it can solve problem, and those are just example of them driverless cars, augmented reality, drones, remote surgery, and robotics, digital manufacturing, wearables, X-tech. What I mean by the X-tech, you have fintech, health tech, ad tech, and you have a bunch of X-tech. For example, we got in Vodafone in the fintech, and we launched recently our iPay, which is the first licensed non-banking wallet or fintech company. It's still in the development phase, but it's already launched, and we are getting into other ventures that is in the X-tech. However, give you an example that with the power of 5G, with the hyperscalers such as Amazon, Google, and Azure is available, what can we do with it? I gave this example during some of the presentations that we have been delivering earlier. Okay, today, imagine that you have a big event in the country, and you will have to secure it properly. Maybe you need thousands, tens of thousands of police forces to ensure that everything goes on the right track. If there is someone who has been identified as a risk to the event or to the community, they will look for him, they will search, and they will bring him to or her to justice. So, however, imagine with the hyperscaler available today, with augmented reality, imagine just one policeman or a security guard standing at the door or at the entrance of the event, just looking across, looking at the people as they are flowing in or flowing out, and they identify someone who is actually a risk to this event. They will upload it into their private cloud or public cloud, depends on how secure is it, or the security level is it. Basically, he will be just looking, and when they identify someone, automatically he will find a circle circulating the face of this gentleman or lady and identify that this guy is wanted. Without actually creating any problem, without running to them, they will head to him, hold him, take him to the right place. This will become very transparent, and by the way, this use case has been implemented as a POC as what we talk today. Without the power or computational power of hyperscalers as of today, without the latency, because when I look at you, it will take only 10 milliseconds to take the picture, analyze it, send it to the supercomputer or to the cloud to do the computation and give you the result. It will take a maximum of 1 second. Previously, this wouldn't have been possibility because you need the bandwidth, which 5G provides to you, and it needs also the latency. So those are just a few examples that can make you or keep you thinking about it. Another interesting thing, and I will be honest with you, I wasn't aware about it. But when we did the research, it was very interesting. In the 2015, the UN has adopted 17 goals as part of 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Telecom is part of increased access to mobility network in Objective 9. It was one of the objectives, and also increase internet usage in Objective 17. Those were one of the few metrics that showed or appeared to be on track, part of this study. Not only this, but in the next slide, it clearly shows that the countries who had an increased mobile connectivity index score, it's very likely that their SDG total score is actually higher. So the more you have mobile connectivity index improved into this country, it's likely that the rest of the objectives is going to be increased also. So this was interesting to us. So we did the further research. So this is the GSMA. The GSMA basically generated this reports based on this, and it's a regulated body that we follow as a telecom industry. As you can see, it's giving that the score part of each of those objectives that is directly related or indirectly impacted by the telecom industry, by the telecom services, mobile services. So for example, which is number 14, 44% of the full score is actually impacted by the telecom sector. Some use cases, this is the one when I spoke about the fintech. M-Pesa was a Vodafone Group product that was launched in about 12, 13 years ago, or 2007. Kenya was significantly under indexed from banking perspective. As you can see, in 2007, the formal, basically, banking index was almost 27, about 27 or 28%. Right after launching this M-Pesa, or the fintech, into the country, over the next 12 years, see the big impact, how it grew. It almost, it took it to a totally different stage. And according to some of the studies, is that the transaction volumes is actually 3 times the Kenya GDP. So it's not added value, but it is 3 times the Kenya's GDP. Another thing that telecom companies will provide. We already started diversifying beyond core, and we found out that a lot of the other stuff that we can get into that can add value. So you can find countries or companies, if you want, you can scan those, such as TELUS in the UK, in Canada, such as Vodafone Group. They have launched a lot of services, basically harnessing their platform that they already have, the telecommunication platform, and they started getting into the health sector. Basically, e-prescription in UK and Canada. Also, you have the medical alert with the smart diagnostics, also in Canada. Telehealth platforms, you have it in Australia, you have it in Europe, you have it in many other places. The electronic medical records, it's actually built by TELUS, by the telecom company called TELUS in Canada, and it was across the entire country. So this is part of how also telecom companies play a role on human development, or from a non-telco perspective as an added value services that they do. And basically, if I'm not mistaken, TELUS in Canada, most of their revenue is actually coming from non-telco. So mostly is actually based on those things. They have the telehealth as one of their pillars, and the e-farming also, something about the innovation in e-farming as part of it. So this is also an interesting use case, showing you how it can be developing the human, or how can telecom impacting the human. I will not spend much here. I'll speak about Qatar. I mentioned earlier that yes, maybe we don't have use cases that we can share. There are many, but we cannot share everything because we need some consent from the people who you use with. However, Ihtiraz actually used us, Vodafone and Ooredoo, as the authenticator. Hayya App, the same thing. It was 100% integrated with Vodafone and Ooredoo during the World Cup. So whenever you subscribe, when a visitor comes, is actually we are already integrated from a security perspective, or from authentication perspective with the MOI. So people will be able to register with their landline that has been registered through the MOI and register a new line with Vodafone and Ooredoo. Kahrama smart metering. Actually, Vodafone is proud. We are the supplier of all the smart meterings in the country with Kahrama for the last 3 to 4 years, basically turning something that where people used to send someone to read the meters in every building. Now they can read it on a daily basis and give the right analytics. And they had big initiatives to reduce the wastage by continuously doing the analysis and having initiatives to reduce the water usage or improve the electricity consumption. Matrash, of course, as I mentioned, it's a good example of how it's being used as an authentication mechanism or a platform without the operators. you will not be able to use Matrash as of today. So they use us for authentication, plus other government entities. Again, those are the ones that we can share, but the rest might not be suitable without their consent. With that said, I hope I didn't take much of a time. I tried to squeeze 150 pages into a few slides. So I hope it was clear, and I'm open for Q&A, please.
Thank you. Very interesting talk. We have some time for some Q&A, and so we have got two microphones set up, and so if you'd like to ask a question to Sheikh Hamad, if you just want to line up behind one of the two telephones. For the students, I'm afraid you're going to have to walk around in order to get to the telephone, to the microphone. So, any questions?
Thank you for your time today. At Carnegie Mellon University, we take a course called Strategy for High-Tech Products and Services. I take that currently right now. And so part of what we take is the challenges of governance on platforms and things of that nature. So what is the biggest challenge that Vodafone currently faces from a governance perspective, either internally or on some of the services?
Would you elaborate more on what do you mean by the challenges in governance?
So how, so in terms of mitigating sort of negative externalities, right? What is Vodafone's approach to these challenges? And if so,
I'll need you again, sorry. Can you elaborate? Give me an example so I understand correctly.
For example, like regulation, right? You guys fall under
CRA, it's the regulator of Qatar, yeah.
So if there are any, has there been any challenges with regulation, and what is Vodafone's approach to overcoming these challenges?
Okay. Currently, we are being regulated directly or indirectly by two regulators. From a telecom perspective, we are being regulated by the CRA, which is the regulator body of Qatar, regulating telecom and digital services, including data center, etc. And also because we have now our fintech venture, we are also being regulated by the central bank. Okay. To be honest, of course, we have regulated departments that actually build the strategy, and we also go out there and pinch. I found out that whenever you have the right arguments to the government or to those regulatory, they are willing to tweak it and change it if it's to the benefits of the country. I face the same thing with the telecom regulation, and I face the same thing with the central bank regulation for the fintech. But you need always to not just to push back for the sake of pushing back. You need, first of all, this is my approach. I analyze, I understand the problem or the fear from their own perspective, trying to address, if I can actually have a mitigation plan for each of their fears or bridge it for them somehow. And then later, which I think works well, is that if you can give good examples of such a regulation changed, that how it impacted the country in a positive way, I guarantee you our government officials here, they take that, but they just we need to work with them, brainstorm, understand what they think, their fears, address their fears, and if you can give examples from external, other countries, they usually, they support very well. So if you approach it systematically, they will do what you want. Something, to be honest, that sometimes we feel it, not in the telecom, and the other regulatory that I will not mention the name, is that people think in general that we need always to have a regulation or a policy before we do something new. This is my argument. If there is an innovative idea, let it go, and there is nothing saying don't do it, let it move. Don't wait to do the regulations, because you don't know how this regulation might actually be a showstopper and kill this initiative. And I had it once. And to be honest, with the head of this regulation, when I mentioned it, I said, don't regulate an innovative idea, because regulation takes too long. You don't know, you haven't know what can go wrong or right. So let it go. Let's foster the innovation, let it grow, and then later, whenever there is something that you think it's going to impact, God forbid, the country negatively or this, then later you can impose a regulation. To be honest, when I explain it in this way, the head of this regulatory body said, I agree, bring the paper, sign it.
Thank you.
But this is the only challenges I'm thinking of.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we have time for one final question.
Okay.
Thank you for your enriching talk. I had questions about the ethical considerations being one of the largest service providers in the region. First of all, in terms of data privacy, of course, being one of those big service providers, you have access to a large amount of data. And how do you ensure that you are handling this data in an ethical manner in terms of like data privacy? And another thing is you spoke about using AI to, in the future, for example, to identify certain threats or individuals. Previous experiences have shown biases that led to a lot of ethical violations. I was wondering, how does Vodafone approach this issue?
Okay. The first question was about the data privacy. First of all, something to correct. We are no longer part of Vodafone Group. We are only Vodafone Qatar, and we operate under, we are not influenced by Vodafone Group. We are using the brand since Qatar Foundation bought their share. We are 100% Qatari company, so we are no longer part of Vodafone Group. However, because we are using the brand, we thought it's a good practice. We are in compliance with the, let me, if I recall correctly, the GDPR, the European Data Privacy Code. We are in compliance for both because we are using the brand, and we think because it's a generally a good practice. Data, nobody has access to the data. Even me, everything is being tracked. If someone gets access to a certain data, it's a serious. And to be honest, the regulatory here is very serious about this. So I guarantee you, your data in a safe hands. And what was the last one again?
In terms of AI in the future, what are the approaches that Vodafone is planning to take to consider biases in the data and the models that you're using?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but let me tell you, it's not about, we didn't start the AI just now. We already have about 50 people have been working on data analytics, and we have almost 18 exactly data scientists working on our own projects, AI-based projects. And definitely there are certain things that can go wrong, but we are continuously working to improve it. One example, because I think we don't have much time, is that we were leading in actually getting the regulation approved for the AKYC. You know your customer electronically. Basically today you can go, subscribe, take a photo of yourself, AI will validate it with your residency or QID, and it will activate your line almost like this. We were leading into it, and we made sure that there is no, it's as fair as, how can I say this one, as accurate as possible. I think you mean something else a little bit, but I'm happy to discuss it with you later.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. So thank you, Sheikh Hamad, for both the presentation and the QIA. We do have a little gift for you, and so we can go over here so we get a nice picture. Well, thank you all again for coming out for today's Dean's Lecture. There are other Dean's Lectures coming up, so be certain to keep your eyes out for that. I welcome the participants to join us now for a quick buffet at the back. Thank you all for coming out.